Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, in a quaint village surrounded by dense, enchanting woods, there lived a sweet little girl known to everyone as Little Red Riding Hood. She was called this because she always wore a red velvet cloak with a hood, a gift from her loving grandmother, who lived in a cottage deep in the forest. One sunny morning, Little Red Riding Hood's mother asked her to visit her grandmother, who was feeling unwell. "Take this basket of goodies to your grandmother," her mother instructed. "But remember, stay on the path and don't talk to strangers." Little Red Riding Hood promised to follow her mother's advice. With a cheerful wave and a heart full of excitement, she set off into the forest, her red cloak fluttering as she walked. As she ventured deeper into the woods, the trees grew taller and the light dimmer, creating a magical yet slightly eerie atmosphere. The path was lined with wildflowers and chirping birds, and Little Red Riding Hood was so entranced by the beauty around her that she soon forgot her mother's warning. She wandered off the path to pick some wildflowers for her grandmother, completely unaware of the danger that lurked in the shadows. Unbeknownst to her, a cunning wolf had been observing from behind the trees. The wolf was known for his deceitful ways and his insatiable hunger for mischief. Seeing Little Red Riding Hood straying from the path, the wolf saw an opportunity to satisfy his hunger and hatch a plan. The wolf approached her with a friendly demeanor, disguising his true intentions with a warm smile. "Good morning, little girl," he said, his voice smooth as honey. "What a lovely day it is. Where are you headed?" Startled but not suspicious, Little Red Riding Hood replied, "I'm going to visit my grandmother who lives in the cottage at the end of the forest. She's not feeling well, and I'm bringing her this basket of goodies." The wolf's eyes gleamed with a wicked thought. "Oh, how thoughtful of you. But there are so many beautiful flowers here. Wouldn't your grandmother enjoy them too? Why don't you pick some more?" Little Red Riding Hood thought it was a splendid idea and began gathering more flowers. Meanwhile, the wolf took a different path through the forest, racing towards the grandmother's cottage. The wolf reached the cottage and knocked gently on the door. "Who's there?" came a frail voice from inside. "It's me, your granddaughter, Little Red Riding Hood," the wolf replied, mimicking her sweet tone. "I brought you some goodies." "Come in, dear," said the grandmother, who, being elderly and weak, couldn't get up to open the door. The wolf turned the doorknob and entered the cottage. He quickly and quietly approached the old lady, who was lying in bed. With a swift and brutal move, the wolf overpowered the grandmother, hiding her in a closet and taking her place in bed, donning her nightcap and glasses. When Little Red Riding Hood finally arrived at the cottage, she noticed that something seemed odd. The door was ajar, and there was an unusual stillness in the air. She pushed the door open and walked inside. "Grandmother, it's me, Little Red Riding Hood," she called out. "Come in, my dear," the wolf said in a voice that was surprisingly hoarse. Little Red Riding Hood entered the bedroom and approached the bed. She noticed how different her grandmother looked. "Grandmother, what big eyes you have," she said, puzzled. "All the better to see you with, my dear," the wolf replied. "And, grandmother, what big ears you have." Little Red Riding Hood continued, her curiosity growing. "All the better to hear you with, my dear," the wolf answered, his voice barely concealing his growing excitement. "But, grandmother, what big teeth you have." Little Red Riding Hood exclaimed, now feeling a sense of dread, "all the better to eat you with." The wolf roared, springing from the bed and revealing his true, terrifying form. Screaming in terror, Little Red Riding Hood tried to escape, but the wolf was too quick. Just as the wolf lunged at her, the door burst open, and a brave woodcutter, who had been passing by the cottage and heard the commotion, rushed in with his axe. With a fierce swing, the woodcutter struck the wolf, saving Little Red Riding Hood from his clutches. The wolf let out a final growl, before collapsing, defeated. The woodcutter quickly freed the grandmother from the closet, where she was shaken but unharmed. Little Red Riding Hood embraced her grandmother, tears of relief streaming down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry, grandmother. I should have stayed on the path and not talked to strangers." Her grandmother hugged her tightly. "It's all right, dear. You're safe now, and that's what matters." The woodcutter, having ensured that the wolf was gone for good, took his leave, wishing them well. Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother, now reunited and safe, enjoyed the basket of goodies she had brought. They spent the rest of the day together, grateful for their safety and the heroism of the woodcutter. Little Red Riding Hood learned an important lesson that day: to always listen to her mother's advice and never stray from the path, no matter how enchanting the surroundings might seem. She and her grandmother lived happily ever after, always remembering the day they were saved by the courage of a brave woodcutter. And so, the story of Little Red Riding Hood became a cherished tale in the village, a reminder of the importance of heeding wise counsel and the courage that can come from unexpected places. The end.